Okay, Boker Tov, good morning, everybody. We are back in business. This pandemic hopefully is behind us, long behind us, as we are now, like the way we used to be, the minyan around the table, not just here on Facebook and on YouTube, but we do have a window to the world. As we learn together this beautiful, magnificent discourse from the Rebbe Rashab, delivered in 1897 in Moscow, the discourse about which the previous Rebbe said that it literally purified the air. It changed our thinking, and it changed our perception of reality. It literally changed the Welt and Schaffung. By talking these words, by discussing these ideas, we are able to reach a state in which we cleanse the world from the spiritual darkness with which it was created. It was a default setting. Bear in mind, Hashem created the world. I wrote about this in my Friday email. How did Hashem create the world? First, he created night, and only afterwards he created day. Hashem created a world that was deliberately dysfunctional in order for us to functional. Thus, we become partners in creation. The problem is, if you sleep until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, if you know the story of the president, the United States president, who slept through his presidency? It's a little controversial. I did not say that. So there's actually a story of a United States president. I know Mickey's debated me on the veracity of the topic, but it's nothing to do with what we're talking about. It's just an example. So no need to get into detail. There's a story about a president. Somebody died, and somebody filled him in, and he got drunk, and he literally was president for one day until they could do the vote on Monday morning or something, and he was drunk the whole time. He was just drunk the whole time he was president of the United States. So the question is, was he really president? Was he president nomination or something? But whatever, doesn't matter, right? He basically stepped through his position, through his big moment. In any event, the question is, are we doing the same as we've been placed on the field? You know, we're in the stadium. We're in, what's it called? Yankee Stadium? What's the big thing over there by New York? By the Jersey City thing over there? I don't know, whatever. Meadowlands. You're in the stadium. All right, so Meadowlands, it's filled to the brim, right? There's thousands and thousands of people. Who's in the stadium? Your Bab and Zayda, on this side, your Bab and Zayda on that side, King David, King Solomon, Bathsheba. You got Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Everybody's there. And now it's your turn on the field. You now were just put on the field. You were born, right? So if you're alive, it means you're on the field, right? If you passed away, it means you go up to the stands. And now you're up in the stands. Sorry, your family, everybody's watching. Everybody brought you to this point. 131 generations since Adam and Eve to you, right? And they've all been passing the baton, one to the next. You know, the athletics, right? The baton, they've been passing it on. And now what happens? You're on the field and you're like, you're sleeping. And they're like, hello. They want to shake you and slap you across the face and say, hello, kick the ball. Run to first base. Make a move. And you're like, I'm not sure if I believe that there's a stadium. You're like, hello, this is not the time for philosophy. It's time to get your act together. You were born for this moment. You were born to deliver the goods.
You should do sports metaphors.
Yeah, it's not my...
You don't kick the ball and run for first base.
Isn't that called kickball? I'm a soccer guy. I can't get it out of my blood. You know, baseball is they call it the World Series. There's exactly 2 nations on earth that play the game. I think it's Japan and the United States. The World Series, right? Soccer is like the whole world plays soccer, except the United States, I think, right? But now they're catching on. They're waking up, right? Okay. Anyways, back to business without offending too many people. They also play soccer?
Cuba.
Oh, they also play baseball. Oh, so it is a World Series soccer. Okay, very nice. Good. Okay. Okay, good. So here we are, guys. What are we talking about? How do we... Thank you, Winston in Jakarta, for posting again the link to the Veyodayta Maamar. That's where you can find it free on our website. This is the book that we're learning, guys. It is To Know God by the Rebbe Rashab. This is the 5th Chabad Rebbe. And he is just an absolute genius. Absolute genius. If you can study one individual that will literally change your perception of reality, of Judaism, of Torah, of everything, the Rebbe Rashab is just unbelievable. This is the main staple of what yeshiva students study in yeshiva. It's always the Rebbe Rashab's study. He's considered the Maimonides of Chassidus, just like Maimonides was the one that turned the Torah, the revealed Torah into an encyclopedia. What the Rebbe Rashab did is that he turned the hidden Torah, the secrets of Kabbalah, of Chassidus, into an encyclopedia the way he taught it. Okay. Hi, Fran Bresnik Marks, and I see Elaine is also with us, even though the signal on YouTube looks like it's floundering. But whatever, we're here, we're live. Okay. So where are we up to is like this today. Here's what we're talking about. We're talking about Havaya and Elohim, right? The two names of God are two names because he has two personalities. When Hashem is unleashed, infinite, himself, the way he is all, without bothering to disguise himself, that's Havaya. The way he hides himself in the way that we can relate to him, that's Elohim, right? So basically what that means is, to simplify the concept, is that every single thing that exists has got an outside and an inside. It's got a shell and an essence. It's got the way it is and the way it is perceived. Now, we live our lives as a one-dimensional reality. We believe in what we see, right? You seeing is believing, they say, right? We don't. What the Rebbe Rashab does in this discourse is that he opens up our mind to realize that everything that you see is only the outside. Everything that hits your eyeball is only the outside. What that means is, it's the tip of the iceberg. Realize it's the tip of the iceberg mentality. Realize that what you're seeing is only the very, very, very small external part. There is so much more. There's an iceberg which is 1,000 times the size, quantity and quality, more than what meets the eye, right? When you realize that, you realize that every single thing that exists has got an inside and an outside. What's the inside? The inside is, remember, the doctrine of perpetual creation, that Hashem is creating the universe at every single moment all over again, as we say it twice in our morning davening, that God in his kindness recreates the world over every single day, right? This is Havaya. Havaya means also, by the way, I often tell you that Havaya is past, present, and future, but Havaya also means creator. That's what I mean. The word Havaya means to create, because the creator is Havaya, the power of infinity that's creating every single thing at every moment in time. So there's an infinite energy inside of every single thing, including this table. And then there is a finite energy. The finite energy is what makes this relatable. If I only had infinite energy in this table alone, unmasked, I wouldn't be able to relate to it because I'm finite. As a finite, limited being, I cannot relate to infinity. Is there anything which is infinite? Only Havaya, right? But that's a concept that we cannot even grasp. If you think about it, you can't even grasp infinity, right? You can talk about it. Chassidim would always say that when it comes to infinity, you can only say what it's not. And even that we're about to discover is actually technically incorrect. You can't ever put a limit on infinity, because then it's not infinite. If it has a limit, if it's not blue, or if it's not limited, and this is deep, if it's not finite, then it's not infinite. Does that make sense? Yeah. If it's infinite and not finite, it means it has a limit. Then it's not then it's not infinite. We're going to go there in a few days or weeks. We'll get there. But that's just a little mind-blowing short circuit experience of where we're headed. So in any event, the way that we can relate to this table is because God chose to conceal it. How did he choose to conceal it? To mask it, to disguise it in the mask of finity. Finity is a word that I think is not a real word, but it means limitedness, right? It's called Mother Nature. Mother Nature is how God hides himself. So when you look at the table, you have to realize there's the table that I see, the table that hides, that is this the correct term, that betrays its source? No, that's the wrong, I'm saying the opposite. It's the table that makes it look like it's, that hides its source. So there's the part of the table that hides its source, right? That's the mask. That's the disguise of nature. Remember, the very word nature in Hebrew means, but betray, that it doesn't align with, whatever. I don't want to get technical. But the point is, remember, the very word nature also means hidden. Remember that, right? It means drowning, which is concealed. So the word nature means God is hiding. There's an element of the table which hides God. That's the klipa, the peel, the shell, the external, the perception that we see. And then if you dig deep, you'll find the internal, which is the essence, which is the godly divine energy. By the way, there's a community member of ours who's probably watching this Veyodayta Moskova later, because he always tells me that he watches it. His name is David Starrer, and he's some sort of a nuclear physicist from Harvard. And I asked him this question. I said, I said, would you agree with me that the reason why atoms and electrons are perpetually in motion, it's like they never die? We don't know anything that is perpetually in motion. Why is it that electrons are perpetually in motion? Would you, as a scholar of Torah, agree with me, as a nuclear physicist who's also learned Chassidus, would you agree with me that this is, the touch, when Michelangelo puts the thing, God touching Adam, even though man wasn't created that way, but there's like a finger, a touch where the creator touches the creation. Could it be that the reason why the electrons are perpetually in motion is because of the infinite Havaya energy, which is at the essence of them? And he said to me, yes. So I thought that was extremely validating in terms of intellectual understanding. In any event, where are we going with this? So now that we know that there's an inside and an outside, that there's an external klipa, a shell, a peel, and that there's an essence within every single thing, we now can begin to understand the original question of the discourse, the question and where the discourse is going. Remember, the first half is all academic, the second half is extremely practical, deeply relevant, answering literally the question, why life has to be so hard for us, why it's the best thing that ever happened to us, that life is so difficult for us, why the bad things that happen to us are so incredibly good for us. Can you imagine after the 3-4 months of learning this, knowing the answer to that question? Bear with me, put on your seatbelts. It's not an easy answer to get to, but we're going to get there as you persevere with me here. So where we're going with this is like this, is that we're trying to understand, to get to that point, you have to understand how Havaya and Elohim is all one. That's what it says in the Zohar. That's what it says in the opening verse of this discourse, Veyodayta, which means you shall know that Havaya and Elohim is all one. That the Zohar is the book of Kabbalah. It's the original source text of the Kabbalah, which was upon which all of Chassidus is based. So it's the essence of the secret Torah. Remember, Moses comes down from Mount Sinai with 10 commandments, a written Torah, an oral Torah, which is the Talmud, and a secret Torah, which is Chassidus, right? Sod, right? Yeah. Anyways, so now that we asked a question, we open up with a question: how can Havaya and Elohim be all one? How can Havaya, which is God's infinity, and Elohim, which is God's concealed, masking disguise, God's disguise, and God's essence is the same thing? We said that there are and kli, light and vessel. One is the light, which is the essence, and the other one is the vessel, which hides it. It's like a lampshade. You got a lampshade. You got a light, and you got the shade. The shade here hides the light, and then the light bulb makes light. So they seem to have totally opposite energies. One is concealing, the other one is revealing. So what's going on over here? That's our question with which we opened up a few days ago. The answer we gave in the last week's session was that actually, without the lampshade, what would you have? A light too bright for you to handle. Try to go to sleep with that, with just a light bulb in front of your eyeballs. It's like, can't do it. The lampshade actually makes the light functional. And channels it where it's supposed to be. Exactly, it channels it where it's supposed to be. In other words, through its act of concealing, what it does is that it makes the light relatable. Just like the example we used last week of the Hoover Dam. If Hoover Dam had to come straight into your house, you blow, right? You need the resistor, whatever, the transformer that limits the energy that allows you to have a light switch that functions in your house. Otherwise, you just blow, right?
God conceal and reveal himself in our dreams by when we were dreaming. He's bringing out the message, concealment, and also revealing.
Yes, there is a concept of dreams where God does choose sometimes to reveal himself. There's a whole fascinating discussion in Torah, in actually the Talmud, and three folios in Masechta Brachos 55 through 58, where it discusses the Kabbalah of dreams. And it's fascinating stuff. If you're interested, I actually gave a whole class on it once. I'm sure you can find it on our website, the Kabbalah of dreams. But yes. Okay, anyways. But here we're being a little more fundamental. We're talking about the light and the vessel. Now, it is a little abstract, guys. This is Chassidus. We're being academic right now, but we are going to apply it later. Right now, we're talking about a light bulb and a lampshade. It's not that difficult to relate to, but when you can't yet apply it to your personal life just yet. We just need to get comfortable with the concept. So first of all, we try to answer our question by saying that the light bulb and the lampshade are actually both serving the same function of making the light relatable, in which case now we can say that the shade and the lamp are actually doing the same thing. They're both revealing. Havaya and Elohim are doing the same thing. That's when we come to the final point where we left off, and we said last week that no, the reason why the lampshade reveals is because it conceals the light. Because it conceals the essence of the light, and it only reveals just a very external, filtered, diluted element of light. That's the reason why it reveals. By hiding the vast majority of the light, by hiding 98% of the light, it allows only 2% of the light or 5% of the light to become functional. So you cannot possibly, in good conscience, call the lampshade revealing when its primary purpose is to conceal.
Maybe a laser is a better example that focuses the light.
But is there any concealment at all on the laser? You don't want to ever stand in the way of a laser. I think it's going to go burn right through you, God forbid, right?
But it focuses.
So it focuses it. Oh, that's when you have 100%. Because remember, light is like a wave, and it's like it's also a right. But with the laser, what it does is it focuses it, right? So that will be the polar opposite of a shade, right? Which disperses the light in a different direction. Whatever. Without getting too nuclear here, it will blind you. The laser will blind you, God forbid. Yes.
When they give a speech, they talk about a person. You see him on the outside, but he's that much more beautiful on the inside.
Wow, Chuck, what a fascinating analogy. I love that. So what you just did is, Chuck, is you moved me from a lampshade and a light to making it very personal. Like right now, here's what's happening. I'm talking to you. Do you really know what's going on in my head and heart right now? Do you even know how passionate I am about this idea? You don't. Do you know why you don't? Because I cannot possibly express my passion to you unless it filters through my teeth, my palate, and all this, and all the 22 letters of the alphabet. I literally got to take an idea. I got to put into a bottleneck, which is called my 22 letters of the alphabet, and then I got to send it out to you. So it's literally going through a bottleneck, right? So what's happening is the lampshade here is my speech, my power of speech, my power of thought, actually, which then filters into my power of speech, which is what you're getting. So you're not getting my passion. What you're getting here is my very, very, very filtered passion. Just like I am only getting from the Rebbe Rashab. What am I getting from the Rebbe Rashab? I'm getting 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, right? I mean, this is the translation. But in the original that I study, imagine I could walk into the Rebbe Rashab's mind. Let's just talk about this for a second. Imagine I could set foot into an IMAX theater and see what the Rebbe Rashab sees. This is what Moses did on Mount Sinai, by the way. It says that Moses experienced on Mount Sinai every Torah novelty teaching that any Jew for the rest of time was going to ever discover. Anything that some scholar in the rest of time is going to discover in Torah, was revealed to Moshe on Har Sinai. Well, you know how much time you can cover that in 40 days? That's insane. But imagine if he visualized it. Imagine if he visualized it, right?
And even that is limiting to the eye. Imagine if all five senses.
How about if he experienced it in deep five-dimensional, not just around sound, but smell and visual and everything else, right? There's actually a story of the Arizal. The Arizal was a great Kabbalist of the past, probably the greatest Kabbalist of the past 1,000 years, buried in Tzfas. If you go to his mikveh in Tzfas, which is still there, the tradition is that you won't die until you do teshuvah, until you repent. So let's make sure to go to the mikveh. That'd be help for us, right? We've been to many a midnight mikveh immersion on community trips to Israel. It's certainly one of the more interesting moments of my shlichus, of my being a shliach in Palm Beach Gardens. But in any event, the story goes about the Arizal. That one Shabbos afternoon he fell asleep. When he woke up, his students asked him, "No, what did you see?" And he said to them, "It would take me 80 years to describe to you what I just experienced. If I had to talk it out," and this is what Chuck was saying, If I had to talk out to you all the details of everything that I just experienced in the past, I don't know, 2 hours, it would take me 80 years of talking nonstop, right? That's what Chuck is saying. There's a light and there's a lampshade, but in a human sense, there's what's going on inside of me, and then there's the way I express it to the outside, because just like I cannot relate to the infinity of this table, of the Havaya of this table, you cannot relate to the emotion, the internal being of me, or I can't relate to the internal being of you. That's why we have so much miscommunications, by the way. Think about it in a marriage. We have so much miscommunications in a marriage because there's what she said, there what she meant, there what she was thinking she meant, there was the thing she said, right? If I said it, no, he says I didn't say it. And if I said it, I didn't mean it. And if I meant it, I changed my mind, right?
And if I would have heard it.
we get completely.
That's why I don't talk much.
You sound like a Jackie Mason.
That's what I just said.
Of course. So let me just finish with Chuck. So Chuck, back to you right now, okay? So Chuck, in your beautiful analogy, which is of the teacher or the speaker who limits his own light, let's apply the answer, right? So we would think that the answer is like this, that the Havaya and the Elohim is all one, because the essence of the light of the wisdom, let's talk about wisdom, the idea which is being expressed and the filter through which it is being expressed, the power of speech, all are focused on revelation, correct? That's our initial answer, what we call in Talmudic parlance, a Hava Amina. Hava Amina means I would have thought that the answer is that both the light of wisdom and the filter through which it's expressed are both in the mode of revelation. Comes the answer, says no. The light, the wisdom is trying to reveal itself, but the filter, the expression, the medium of speech is actually much more limiting than it is revealing, because you're not getting what the Rebbe Rashab here calls the etzem ha'or. You're not getting the essence of the light. You're only getting what the Rebbe Rashab calls chitzoni yosa'or, the externality of the light, the very periphery of the light. You're not getting, I cannot possibly express to you exactly how I feel. Exactly. You're only getting a very partial component of the light. And therefore, where we left right now is that the filter is much more concealing than it is revealing. Elohim hides, Havaya reveals. Back to square one. How can Havaya and Elohim be one and the same? How can the Zohar say Havaya and Elohim kulachad, that Havaya and Elohim is all one? How can our opening sentence say from Torah, which we say in Aleinu l'shabech every single day, 3 times a day? Veyodayta, and you shall know today ki Havaya hu Elohim, that Havaya is Elohim. What are we saying? They're opposites. The one is revealing, one is concealing, and we're back to square one. Yes, Mark.
25 years ago, a little over 25 years ago, my mom passed away. Before she passed away, she left the video, so it's a constant reminder. And I can access that video, and she's left messages for her grandchildren that she never saw or anything else. But I mean, it's powerful in the sense that I'm able to remember her in a different way.
That is beautiful, and you know what? I love that analogy too. So you miss your mother. Do you miss your mother?
Yeah.
Don't you have her on video? Isn't that enough for you to have her on video? Is it enough for you that she's on video? Maybe you shouldn't miss her anymore. The answer is no, of course not.
Yeah.
It's not my mother. It's an expression of my mother. The video has successfully expressed a component of her, but it's so peripheral. I don't feel like I have my mother. Maybe even a better example is my parents. I haven't seen them in almost 2 years. They're in South Africa, but I have FaceTime. Right? So does FaceTime, is that good enough? It's pretty darn close. But if you're married to someone, you cannot have a FaceTime relationship, because it still isn't enough, because the etzema, or the essence of the light, is concealed. Let's just discuss these words in the words of the Rebbe Rashab, and we'll call it a day, okay? So if you happen to have the book, I'm on page 6 in the book. And if you're in the printout version, I'm in the paragraph that begins, "This is not." Okay, so I'm just going to read 2 paragraphs right now, maybe 3, and then we'll call it a day. So everything I've just explained, we're going to explain in the words of the Rebbe Rashab, translated. Okay, so this is not, however, a revelation of the light as it exists in its own right, the way it's expressed. For as explained above, the light is representative of the source of light and is truly simple and infinite in nature. Thus, in essence, the light which we see is the light which is the source is not in the level of the worlds, The part of the light that we receive is much more filtered than the light the way it is by itself. For by definition, a world must exist as a separate and individual entity. So basically, the definition of a world in Hebrew, the word world, olam, also means he'elem, concealment. If a light is palatable, is receptive into this world, it means it's already diluted. The very fact that it's in this world, it means it's already concealed. Since limitation and infinity are by definition different, limitation is the vessel, infinity is the light, are by definition different. Therefore, God's infinite light is not at all on the level of these finite worlds. Thus, we can appreciate that the light which the vessels reveal in the worlds is not the essence of the light. What this table, the infinity of this table, which is masked by the finity, which makes it practical and relatable, that still isn't the infinity the way it is on itself. It's not the essence of the light, but rather an external ray of the light. Indeed, the essence of the light always remains hidden within them, concealed by the vessels, and it is through concealing the essence of the light that the vessels are able to reveal the external dimensions of the light and cause it to affect change in the world. Thus, both concepts are true. The vessels conceal the essence of the light, and they reveal its external dimensions. These two concepts are interrelated. It is because they conceal the essence of the light that they are able to reveal its external dimensions. The reason I'm able to express to you, in Chuck's beautiful analogy, the reason I'm able to express to you my wisdom, my idea, is because I'm hiding the majority of it. And only a small bit of it is being filtered out. That's the nature of a vessel, like the lampshade filtering the light. And that's where we conclude today, where we're left off with a very solid question of how can the light and the vessels be one and the same? How can Havaya and Elohim be one and the same? What we're going to do now is we're going to give two more examples in the continuation of the discourse. We're going to give an example from our ability, the power of speech, which is really what Chuck's analogy was. We're going to give that example. We're going to harp on Chuck's analogy as it pertains to a Beth Din in temple times when they needed to rule cases of capital punishment. There was a law that they were not allowed to stop talking about the case and sleep on it. They were not allowed to stop talking and sleep on the case. They needed to continue discussing the case until daybreak when they were able to make a verdict. Because, we'll discuss it, but because the light would be completely hidden by written words. If you sleep on it and the words remain written, so the next morning you have to remind yourself where we left off last night, you've lost the essence. As long as you're talking about it, you're thinking about it, as long as you're actively thinking about it, you're still maintaining the essence of the idea. But the moment that you sleep on it, you've already expelled the essence of the light, and you're left only with the vessels, with the letters. And a second example we're going to give is from the soul, the way it inhabits the physical body, and where we're going to be left off with at the end of section 1 of about 5 sections of this discourse is we're going to be left off with a very solid question of how can the vessels and the light be one? What on earth do we mean in Aleinu L'Shabeach when we say 3 times a day that Havaya and Elohim is all one? Any questions? So far, so good? All right, guys. Very good. Thank you very much, everybody. Shalom. Have a great day. I see that Winston actually just posted, by the way. Very nice. Thank you, Winston. He posted a playlist of all these classes, lessons 1 through 8 on Veyodayta Moscow, on To Know God. If you want to hear them, they're all clearly organized right now on the website, on the YouTube website. Very nice and clear. Thank you so very much, Winston. You can go to our YouTube page and see all these classes listed clearly, youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. And again, I highly encourage you. Let me tell you, I didn't understand this stuff before I studied it 6 or 7 times myself. So don't feel bad if it's a little out there. Thank you very much, everybody. Shalom. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Sure.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Mark,